Okay, marketing class. We already talked about part of the reason why this semester was really, really difficult for me, but I'm going to talk about some of the other things involved with this class in particular, but we'll start off with the books. The books weren't particularly a big part of the class, but the reviews are short and interesting related to these. The first one that we read in the marketing class was Empirical Generalizations about Marketing Impact by Dominique M. Hassens, more of an editor of these sort of case studies. And I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads because the data from these studies was very interesting. It wasn't used in or particularly useful for the MBA marketing course where it was assigned, but it was a nice little novelty side reading to get in the frame of mind for the class. Now, the other book was called Market-Based Management, Strategies for Growing Customer Value and Profitability. It was by Roger J. Best. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars, and I talked about it being very comprehensive and instructional. I get the feeling that much of what it teaches is an extremely effective approach rather than an industry standardized method, but the difference between the two may have been the most important lesson of the class in retrospect. Interesting, these books were sort of companion pieces to what was taught in the course. The big stuff that happened in the course was really involved in the case studies, and that's kind of how everything worked. We did different case studies about different industry things, trying to get marketing contribution dollars and numbers out of specific things that were happening, and it was really valuable. It was a very difficult but rewarding course. I went through. We talked about in the last video how it was such a tough semester for me. I went through a lot in this semester with my father passing away. But one of the other things that was really difficult about this semester is at the beginning of every one of these semesters, before I went into the class, I would email the professor ahead of time. And I was working a job in the news. So sometimes when there's breaking news, it's not possible for me to make it to class on time. So I would email the professor about that ahead of time and ask, what would be the way to actually come to the class if you had a time where you didn't want me to interrupt, how to not be disruptive. And unfortunately, in this class, when I did this, the professor just forwarded it to an administrator and tried to have the administrator deal with me as if I was asking for accommodations. I was just trying to do it in terms of trying to be courteous, which was really a difficult thing for me in preparation for this course. Actually kind of speaks to one of my pet peeves about emails too. A lot of times, if people don't give you the heads up or tell you that they're going to share an email that you sent to them and then just send it somewhere else to another person, it's something that I don't know why I get frustrated by, but I like to craft an email message with another person in mind. So if you're sending an email and you want to share it somewhere else, either give someone the heads up or tell them that it's going to be used for other ears, other eyes, other audiences. All that being said, the class was extremely wonderful, was extremely effective and rewarding. And the professor ended up being very understanding and very accommodating, actually, when my dad did die and I had to take remote classes for a while and do much of my work from a remote area. And of course, this is in 2012, so this is long before, pandemic and Zoom and all that stuff became so commonplace. So it was really great that the professor actually did that, but it was so frustrating at the beginning of the semester that I had to deal with that kind of stuff. So both of these books ended up being good books, but they were just basically companion pieces. And really, in terms of an MBA program, a lot of times classes that are driven by books are not necessarily the best way to learn. I've definitely found that in my MBA program, some of the best classes were out of the textbooks and really focused on real life application, especially for me that was looking for career change and trying to get into a business mindset coming out of the news. The case studies and the real places where you were applying knowledge was far more valuable than the texts that were there. So we had these two there. And this is really going to end that semester, that's such a tragic semester, such a difficult time in my life. But we'll have some non-MBA books sprinkled in here as we transition into the next year, into 2013. So these two books were for the marketing class, but we'll get to some of the final semesters later in 2013 as we graduate and have some fun books sprinkled in between. Till next.